So there is something very exciting happening in the world of JSX of all places, and I'm kind of digging it. This is called TSRX. I'm on their website. It's tsrx.dev. It says here, it's a TypeScript language extension, and then they got some obligatory. Don't worry about this agentic AI crap that's in here. It's got nothing to do with AI. I think I really like this. I'm kind of on the fence. It's the syntax. The syntax is really refreshing in some cases and a little awkward in others. So I built this little demo. There's a GitHub repository for that. I will share the link to this, and you can access this via like a GitHub Pages URL. So in each of these, I've got the JSX on the left, the TSRX on the right, and then I've got working components. This is a component written in TSRX, and this is a component written in JSX. So starting off with our basics, here's our JSX standard function called greeting. It returns inside of a fragment, an H1 and a P tag with some text. Here's our TSRX one. Right off the bat, you can see we replaced the function keyword with this new component keyword. And we have our greeting, and then we don't return anything. These lines are just statements. That's it. So less typing, I guess, right off the bat. I like this. This is cool. Now, if you noticed, there is one thing here that kind of sucks, and that's the way they handle text. So here I'm saying P hello name, right? I just interpolate the name. But over here, I have to double quote the regular string part of it, then interpolate the name, and then double quote the rest of it. That's a little awkward. I don't love it, but you can do template literals exactly the same way you would do in JSX, and that I'm kind of okay with. I think their documentation says don't always use template literals, but I think I'm always going to use template literals. The rest of it works exactly as you would expect. Here's our components. Everything's working great. This is where it starts to get pretty cool, at least as far as I'm concerned. We've all done this. If it's active, then show this. Otherwise, show this. If this thing is true, otherwise show this. So we have these nested ternary statements, whereas over here, we just use if statements. So if it's this, else if it's that, otherwise do this, and there's no return statement again. So that, I think, is pretty dope. This is another kind of awkward one. I think it's more of it's different, so I'm confused by it. In JSX, to iterate over this list of items, we would just map and then return. And I've got a little ternary here if it's item.hidden, and there is one in each of these, do null, otherwise return the li. In TSRX, all you have is for const of. It's the only thing you can do. So everything is going to be in a for const of, at least right now. But it does free me up to say, if it's an item hidden, then just continue. Otherwise, just put this out there. I didn't have to do any returns. I didn't have to do any ternaries. It's a little different, but it's not a deal breaker. Children works almost identical, but this does bring up another thing. So let's see, we've got our card H2 and paragraph tag. Same thing over here. All that's looking good. In JSX, we would just item map over those guys and call our render item. Since there's no map available to us in the body of a TSRX component, we can't do that. But the escape hatch is you can just pass it in under a children's prop and it'll work just fine. So I'm okay with this. It's different, but it's fine. Early returns, this one's really cool. Here we say if it's not a user, return this guy. Otherwise, return all this stuff. And here we just say if it's not a user, output the paragraph tag and then just do an undefined return. So that's it. Not that big of a change, and I feel like it just feels more JavaScript-y. Lazy destructuring, both of these examples are working. The one on the right is really for if you're using a library. I think Vue does this where they really encourage late destructuring. So they want you to pass in, user here and then not pull the name off of it until you're ready to use it. So this would be user.name. Apparently this does that for you. I don't know. I haven't really tried it, but it does work. Lexical Scoping. I don't know if I needed this or not, but it's kind of neat. So here's a name, here's a greeting, then we use the greeting in this H1. That's pretty standard. Here's the name. Here's the greeting defined directly inside this div, which you wouldn't really ever do in JSX. I'm sure there's some awkward contortion that you could do to make that happen. But what's interesting is this greeting is now scoped to this div. And if you try to use it outside that div, it will cause an error. So that is interesting. Prop shorthands is a really easy win. You could technically do this with JSX. You would create an object and then inside of that spread an object that had value and onchange as keys. But typically you're going to say value equals value and onchange equals onchange. And if that's the case in TSRX, you can just say value and onchange and you're done. Scope styles. This is pretty cool. These styles are scoped to this component. So now we're in, web components territory, maybe like views, single file component stuff. These styles belong to this component and they will not bleed outside of this. Whereas in JavaScript, of course, you could use CSS modules or something like that, but typically you're going to have tailwinds or some sort of external thing. So that's pretty cool. Style composition, it's fine. This is pretty much the same. You just, you do a template literal of badge and class name. And in this case, we have this scoped style. And then down here, another way to use that is a style highlight. I don't know exactly why they have this. I haven't dug deep enough for it. I'm sure it's useful, but it's not a huge selling point for me personally. Switch statements are dope. It's just more JavaScript. Here we're doing a bunch of returns. Here we just do the statement and then break and we're out. Not that big of a difference. DOM refs, a lot less typing with this guy, so that makes me happy. In JSX, we're going to have to import the use ref. We're going to set that up as use ref. We're going to, in our handle click, we're going to access the DOM through the ref.current, and then we'll hit focus. And then we throw that on the on click here. And this is how we put the ref on the input. When I click on that, it focuses this text field. Over here, same thing. I instantiate it, but I don't do anything with it. And I just have a function that says you're going to get a node, call node focus. The way I set up the ref is with this ref keyword and input ref, and then I just pass that to my function, and it works. So that's pretty cool. Hooks. I know a lot of people are really into this, and there is certainly a good reason to be excited about this one. It's not the be-all, end-all for me, but in JSX, we're going to do, we're always going to have our hook at the top. You can't put this after this is user thing because you're going to get a whole bit about how hooks can't be used conditionally, blah, blah, blah. Over here, you can totally do that. So I can say, if it's not user, do the please sign in and do our early return. Otherwise, do our hook and all is well. This use effect being inside of for const of loop, I got this from their demo, their docs. I don't know why anyone would ever do this. I think they're just flexing like, look, you could do this if you wanted to. I didn't have a good example of how this would exactly be useful, but this part for sure, being able to set up a hook after, you decide that you actually need it. And, that's pretty cool. Conditionally setting up hooks is really neat. These next two, I just love. So this is a typical error boundary. I didn't write my own. I brought it in from React error boundary, which I'm sure a lot of people do. You set up your error boundary, your fallback. Here's my fallback. Then you try to load up your user profile and you close the error boundary. And something went wrong, which is totally true because I'm forcing it to fail. Now on the TSRX side, it's just a try catch. And man, that is very refreshing. So I try to output my user profile. And when I catch on that, I just output this error. That one makes me really happy. This one makes me even happier. Error boundary, fallback, suspense, fallback, user profile, then close out the suspense and the error boundary. In TSRX, it's a try. And instead of a suspense, we just have this pending keyword. So we're going to try to load our user profile. While that's happening, we're going to render our pending state. And if everything goes wrong, we're going to say something went wrong. And this is the last one. And this web app that I built is not great. It's not keeping track. I didn't put any routing into it, but I'm going to click this async boundaries. And if you pay attention right underneath the code examples where the components render, you will see each one do a loading and then finally load. Loading, and there it is. I'll do it one more time. There you go. So that is a quick look at TSRX versus JSX, or comparing them, not really versus. I'm super excited about this. I got to admit, like, I feel like this is what we're going to be using. If not this exact version, a version coming in the very near future, or maybe all of this will get rolled up into JSX in time. But some of these features are killer, and I'm super happy about it.